Hey everyone, welcome to Thta Pdeal Swoh. Dan here.
Mick here. Hello, welcome to the show. Get more from your Big Muff.
Indeed, indeed. So I wanted to have a look at the Big Muff specifically because it's a pedal that even if you don't particularly know the sound of, everyone's heard of it because of all the artists that are associated with this pedal.
Not least for the entendreful name.
Yes,
Daniel.
yes. How big is your muff?
Yes, yes.
So interestingly enough, the muff name comes from muffled.
Sure it does.
Sure it does.
Which is why it's called Big Muff Pi, right?
There you go.
Yeah. You see the pi symbol there?
Yep.
It's all about maths.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway.
So I thought we'd have a look today at some sounds that you know from the Big Muff and some other things that you can do with it, because it really is an extraordinary thing. Introduced in the very late 60s, and then it's been used ever since. I actually have, this is like the precursor to the Big Muff. This is the Muff Fuzz. This is a 2-transistor little fuzz box, whereas the Big Muff is a 4-transistor fuzz. Completely unique design when it came out. No one had seen anything like it.
Important to say, there have been so many down the years and they vary greatly. This is, what, a 1970s?
It's a late 70s. It might even be early 80s, but it's that ilk. That's an old one. And this has a tone bypass switch, so you can bypass the tone. We'll get into that in a minute. Yeah, so we'll start off with Big Muff into a Vox AC15.
I wonder what the settings are.
And we're just going to let you hear the controls, like from the whole range of the controls.
Great.
Cool. I'm going to put this back.
Well, the AC15's on, so you'll be able to hear it now. I don't think I've ever done that before.
Right. It's wild.
Right? The tone control is madness.
It is, yeah.
So it's like a filter sweep.
Completely.
Rather than just a add more top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's one of the reasons that loads of players gravitated, lots of studio guys, because depending on what they're in, they could dial in that tone control to whatever they were doing, they'd make it fit in the mix.
Well, if you take, let's just take two people at random. Jay Mascis.
Yes.
Dinosaur Jr.
Yeah.
And others. David Gilmour.
Yeah.
I mean, how much further apart could they be?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got, White Stripes. That's a big part.
Meg White on the drums.
Meg White on the drum and her Big Muff is amazing. Jack White, is a massive part of his thing. But so many players over the years have used a Big Muff to impart what it does.
Okay, come on then. We got 5 things to go through.
5 things to go through.
The first one we've written down is a wall of fuzzy noise.
Yeah. So one of the sounds that people loved with this pedal is how massive it sounds. And of course, if it sounds massive, what you want to do is make it more massive by adding more amps and things. So, with things like shoegaze and that sort of style of music, wall of amplifiers and a Big Muff going into them. So we're going to turn the Marshall on.
I'll turn the Marshall on while you play, Dan. Let's feel what the Marshall's going to give us.
All right. I'm going to set the Big Muff up so it's quite distorted. All right. As if there's a sound that it isn't quite distorted.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Get out of town.
right,
That is magic.
isn't it?
Absolute magic.
So one thing you would have noticed, it didn't really matter what guitar we had.
Oh yeah.
To an extent,
To
it was
a point. To a point. Yeah.
But you weren't hearing the necessarily the characteristics of each guitar.
No.
You're hearing the muff do its job.
Without doubt.
So one of the reasons that it is such a popular pedal, if you think of a fuzz pedal, and it can take years for an experienced player to really get to grips with a classic germanium fuzz, with all of its characteristics and all that stuff. The great thing about the Big Muff, you've got 4 gain stages in the Big Muff, all feeding into each other. And the way that limits, it's very smooth. And you don't have to be a virtuoso guitar player to make that thing sound amazing. If you know a bar chord that you can move around,
As you saw.
you can stick a Big Muff on your board and you're making music.
Okay.
So I think that's a big part of that appeal. It's very musical straight off the bat. So I think that's a sound that a lot of us associate with a Big Muff. We know that.
That is the sound I associate with it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's really great fun, and it puts you in a place straight away.
Without doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, so sound 2 then we're going to look at, I've got written down as a big tone out of a smaller amp.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to just hear the AC15 on its own. The Big Muff has this massive bottom end. So even if you're playing smaller amplifiers, and the AC15 isn't necessarily a small amplifier, it's small for us, but it's like compared to...
Yeah, it's not 100 watt
It's
Marshall.
not a 100 watt Marshall, right? It's a 15 watt amplifier, Alnico speaker, you know, really wonderful sounding thing. But getting that to a point where it is beefy rock can be a challenge. But one of the things the Big Muff does exceptionally well, gives you fat tones from smaller amplifiers. So yeah, that's...
That sounds great.
It does that.
It's pretty beefy already.
Yeah, so we're going into the treble booster channel of that.
Okay, let's see what it sounds like with the Strat then. This is going to be interesting.
You hear how the Strat, more it just goes, and you hear Big Muff.
It makes you want to play like Doom.
Yeah. Big,
minor
fat
key.
bar chords. So.
And what you were saying about the bottom end is significant because it is killing that Vox.
Yeah.
Absolutely crapping out.
And that is part of that sound.
Yeah.
With the small amplifiers, it's just like, the amp is sort of, and it's definitely, because it was not crazy loud there, but because the amount of bottom end, the amp is, and the speaker and everything is struggling. So even at lower volumes, it can sound like an amp cranked on the edge.
Very much so. Getting a 100 watt Marshall to do that is,
painful.
Dangerous.
Yeah, indeed.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so sounds great into a smaller amp. Obviously the wall of noise, stuff that we know, but one of the things that I think bears some decent exploration is setting up the Big Muff to be a little bit more dynamic. I'm going to go back to the telly for this. As you would have heard when we were dialing in the controls on the Big Muff, it's and then the more you go around. Like it's angry from the first moment you turn
That's what
it
it says in the manual, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it's
Press here.
What I want to do is I want to take you through one of my favorite things with the Big Muff is finding a sweet spot where the gain just kicks on. So I'll leave the tone control where it is, and then I'm going to turn in the Big Muff it's called sustain. It's the gain control.
The distortion control.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I'm going to turn that all the way off. I'm going to play a chord, And I'm going to start turning it up until it just kicks on. A good, you remember when we were playing with the fuzz and you were saying you get the sound of frying bacon and then you turn it back until that just disappears? Similar thing, you turn it up until the sound of frying bacon just
appears.
Starts.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, well, I think I'm qualified to do that if you want to concentrate on the playing.
Okay. Right.
First question, does that become more apparent if you've got the tone control further up?
Yes.
Because it, as the name suggests, it is muffly, muffly, muffly.
Yep.
Do you want to leave it there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what I'll do, I'll just play a bit with the sound set there, and then I want you to play a bit in the Strat before we mess around with the tone control, because as we found before, it's epic. But with that dialed to that position, just have a feel how dynamic it is.
I want to hear that into the Marshall as well, because
We can do
I
that.
want to take because the AC15 is dying.
Okay, let's put the Marshall on.
No, we'll do them both. Do them
Okay.
both.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Have a go on the Strat with that sound.
I literally no idea what to do with all that bottom end.
Right.
That is like, I would never have that much. So you've got to think completely differently about everything you play.
It's pretty much like 99% on bridge pickup.
Yeah.
Trying to get rid of that. So you only get a bit more attack. But what that bottom end gives you in terms of just fatness and is pretty amazing. It's pretty unique to the Big Muff thing.
Let's see if this has any more joy with its 1 meg pots and slightly more aggressive presentation.
But can you feel how, I mean, it gets ready to take off into feedback, but it's not, it's such a different thing than a standard overdrive pedal. It feels so different.
It's complete. I would want this, right? I would want that.
Wicked.
And then tame it from here if necessary.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the other thing that we're going to have a quick look at is that tone control. So you play, and I'm going to do with the sustain set like that, so it's dynamic as we dig in. Check out what happens. There's a few points where it's almost like you hear a new part of the tone stack sort of coming in. So
I think is this the this isn't the last thing we're going to do.
No. This is still the low gain tones. A big part of that is working out where to dial in that tone control. Okay, so here you go.
We're going to stick with the Marshall, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to swap guitars
Okay.
because the hum is doing my head in. It's funny, as users of Dan and I very rarely use very high gain things, and if we do, they're usually on and off quickly.
Yeah. Or they're in the din of a band.
Yeah, so this will hum a little bit, but nowhere near as bad as the other thing.
Just to say, even with the tone all the way off, that's still a usable sound, right? But now as we start to filter through, so there's a couple of different points through that. You feel the first point was when the treble and fizz just starts to kick in. And then it's like, okay, that's cool. There's still like loads of bottom end and a bit of fizz. Next it's like, oh, it's more treble. But then we start getting rid of the bass. And it's like, it's just epic. So,
Yeah.
you know, like Isley Brothers, that sort of sound, like no bottom end. It's just like, wee. It's so cool. But what we've done there, because we don't have the sustain all the way up, it's still very much works on the attack of the string.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Now, the other thing, this version of the Big Muff has what we call a tone bypass. So we can actually take the tone control completely out of the circuit.
Right.
And it puts all the mids back.
Okay.
All right. So just have a quick play of this.
You play. You
Oh,
play.
okay.
I'll switch it off.
All right.
That's why you see so many clones and modern muffs with all kinds of things going on with the mid-range,
Yeah.
whether they've got an additional mid-range control or some mod there, because that's where all the problems are.
It is where all the problems are. However, it's really important to say that that massive bottom end mid scoopy thing is one of the reasons that the muff works so well, especially in bands, is that you can have this incredible fat guitar sound, but you can still sing, and the mid range of the vocal still sits on top.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know, certainly with the tone control engaged, it doesn't fight as much as a mid-heavy thing does.
Counterintuitive, isn't it? Because when you'll know this if you've ever done a sound check and the engineer says, "Guitar, play me a solo sound," and you step on something with loads of extra girth and the acoustic effect is that it sounds way louder. And actually, yes, there's more bass,
Yeah.
and it's more aggressive, and it sounds kind of louder. But actually, those key frequencies, like you say, where the vocals are, not so much, maybe.
Yeah, sure. So that's, exploring it, setting it up with, that's my favorite thing with the muff. You get the gain just so it's on. It's still dynamic, depending on the amp that you're using. It's finding that point with the tone control, whether you want the fizz, whether you want the warmer sound, something in there with the tone control. But one of my favorite things to do with the Big Muff, let's say we're using this as a rhythm tone, is boosting into the Big Muff with something like a tube screamer. So think about the way that David Gilmour with his Big Muffs, very well-known Big Muff user, but he's got like EQ pre and post.
It's incongruous to me because I know we can hear that nature of the overdrive, but it never sounds as mad as that.
No.
Never sounds as mad as that.
So what we'll do, I'll set up a rhythm sound. I'll get both amps on, right? And I'll set up a rhythm sound. And the tube screamer, it's the same thing as with the tube screamer when you put it into a high gain amplifier, how it tightens up that bottom end. Let's see if it does the same job into this.
And so we've got our tube screamer set, loads and loads of volume, not much gain.
Yeah. Okay, so let's put on.
right in the ear hole.
Yeah. So there's one thing about those cascading gain stages in the Big Muff, and boosting into it just works so well.
It's brilliant. It does all the things you expect the tube screamer to do, the same way that it's used in a lot of hard rock music, where exactly what you said, scoops out a load of that bottom end and makes the mids sing out a bit more.
Yeah.
Also, it's doing wonderful things for the AC15 because it's stopping it crapping it out quite so much.
There you go.
So the AC15 is not having to push those bass frequencies so much, so we get a little bit of headroom back that can be pushed back into making those mids sing and hit me right in the ear hole. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, taking a bit of time with a Big Muff and setting it up like that, exploring those lower gain sounds, exploring having things boosting into it when it's set up like that. I think it's a magical thing.
It is a magical thing. And hearing it in this context, you can kind of start to hear it on all the records you've heard it on as well.
Yeah.
Which is killer. Nice one. Okay, that'll be that. Please subscribe, click the button, doesn't cost anything, helps us out big time. Please also go to thatpedalshowstore.com and pick yourself up some merch. We have all kinds of things there. That's the primary way we fund this show, for which we're very grateful.
Indeed. Massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon for your
Thank
support.
you.
And also massive thanks to our preferred retailers. Click in the description and you'll see details, and if there's anything on the board that interests you, there'll be links through, and that also helps.
Indeed. All right. We'll see you again for a bit more of this. This is good.
This is good. Yeah, man. It's brilliant. Have a great day. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.